All right, well, let's call to order the July 12th, 2022 Water and Sewer Commission meeting. Anybody here for public forum? All right, hearing none. Warrants, minutes, and abatements.
All right, I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes for review from the June 7th meeting.
Can I get a second? Jack,
Second.
roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
All right, moving on, I'd like to make a motion to accept the following warrants for review and signature. Starting off, you have the commissioner's salaries of $375. Next, we have Osterman Propane for $1,412.71. We have CCL Landscape for May 2022, $600. Another CCL Landscape for June for $400. McClure Engineering Waterline Construction, $767.50. And then the Beta Services from May to June for $40,533.28. Bringing a total of $44,088.49.
Can I get a second, Jack?
Second.
Go ahead, Peter, roll call vote.
Ridlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
and Mr. Campbell.
Aye. All right. Moving on, scheduled appointments. Vinny, Veolia.
Sure. I'll be covering the monthly operating report for May 2022. Plant personnel, the plant was operated by myself, Dylan Moriarty. We had a vacant grade 5 operator position. Health and safety, hand sanitizer, antibacterial wipes are available. May 3rd, we completed Veolia's inspection report. We do that every month. And I was out with COVID during the month of May. The safety training for the month, we didn't do any training the month of May, and we pushed it out till June. Compliance for the month of May, there were several exceedances to report. The DMR was completed and entered into the CDX on June 15th. May was also the second quarter of toxicity testing, and the plant passed that. The exceedances had many contributing factors. There were mechanical failures, the SCADA upgrade, as well as influent loading. All of those issues make it difficult to run the plant, and it was a real big undertaking to keep it in compliance, or even as close as we were. So we did have the technical and performance team out here recently. This is a little side note. We also had a COMAG expert on site with them. Together, we looked at everything that was going on, and we made the decision to take one of the trains offline. The COMAG train 2 was taken offline until we can get the SCADA integrator in here to redo some programming. And since we took it offline, the plant's been running a lot better, and we should be making compliance. But nothing in life's guaranteed, so we'll have to wait and see how it comes up.
When's that guy coming back with the SCADA stuff, Vinny?
He was going to come this Friday, but he has COVID.
Oh, great.
So he wanted to reschedule for next week. I won't be in. So we're like 3 weeks out.
All right.
The parameters that we exceeded on, we exceeded a weekly BOD with a reported result of 18.2 and our limit's 18. We exceeded effluent total phosphorus with a 0.24 milligrams per liter, and our limit is 0.11. And we also exceeded E. coli daily max. And we had a result of 2419, and the limit is 409. And we had another effluent E. coli monthly geometric mean exceedance of 692. And limit is 126. Any questions on any of those?
You get that UV light back up and running, Benny?
UV's been on all season. So the problem we're having with it is there's a parameter called UVT, which is UV light transmittance. It's how far the light can penetrate the water.
Yep.
And even though the water looks pretty clear, it's not penetrating well. So like you could take a bottle of vodka and stick UV light on it and it won't penetrate at all. So there's something in the water that's causing us to have this issue. And I have already sent samples to Canada to have them analyzed. And they ran 2 of the tests. They weren't able to run the 3rd one because the sample got there a little late. So I'm actually packing more samples up and sending them to Canada tomorrow.
Okay. They're working on it.
Yeah, so the test they do is really neat. They pour off a whole bunch of little samples and they treat each sample with a little bit more of a UV dose until they find the perfect dose for our water. But anyhow, moving on.
Okay.
Operations and maintenance activities. During the month of May, Ratepayers continued working on the upgrade with ideas and proposals. May was the home stretch for this project, and the final draft comes out in June. The town delivered the new laptop for monitoring SCADA remotely. That works well. There's a little bit of a rough start to get used to it, but it's a useful tool. Clarifying number 2, we had it offline because it was plugged up. And while we had it drained, there's a bunch of loose rust around the baffle walls. So we got in there and scraped all that rust off, picked it up so it wouldn't fall into the pipes again. RBC number 1 spilled over because of foreign particles blocking the effluent grading. And that debris came in the plant when the influent screen was broke down. So hopefully we won't have too much more of that stuff floating around in the plant. We did RBC proficiency testing and it showed 1, 4, and 7 were not optimized. Basically, we test them all to see how well they treat for ammonia. It's one of the fastest tests you can do to see if they're working right. And the ones that are not working right, we typically adjust the flow to them, give them more or less dependent what's going on. LaFleur Electric was in to troubleshoot EQ tank 3. Both pumps were showing a ground fault on the VFDs. They discovered shorts in the wiring from the plant to the tanks. And they pulled all new wiring with a wet rating. And while they were pulling it, they also replaced the wiring for EQ tank 2's pumps. All the wiring goes through the same conduit, same conditions. There was a pretty good chance the other one wasn't going to last long. So instead of paying them to come back and spend a day pulling more wire, we just pulled it at the same time. The Comag polymer pumps, we noticed that one of them, every morning it was running a little slower than the other pump. They sit pretty close to each other, so you can physically look at them and tell that the speed was different. So we'd have to unplug it to reset the pump and it would pick right up in speed and catch up. And we ended up replacing those in June. We recalibrated all of the process equipment just to make sure it was nothing on our end, keeping the plant running right. So we have a bunch of pH probes that report and also make chemical adjustments. They were all really close to calibration, but we did it anyways just to make sure we didn't miss anything. We also calibrated that turbidity meter, which almost never needs calibrating. And that's a little bit more of a process, but again, that piece of equipment was working right as well. We checked the dosing output of the polymer pumps and they were putting out exactly what we thought they were at the time. We had Slim Sewer Service in to repair the headwork screen. And it was a little bit of a project. They were here a whole day to take care of it. Collection system activities. Veolia met with the staff at Treehouse and we discussed different ways for them to sample their floor drains and to try to track down any sources of high loading. And while we're in there, that Cannon line, we noticed it was just constantly spilling beer. And we didn't know if it was a lot or not, but you could just see it was a constant flow. So we recommended that they sample that area. And from what I've heard, they did find a couple areas that surprised them and they remedied it. Pump station activities. Mugget Hill Pump Station called out with a low wet well alarm. It was a bad stop flow. So in the pump stations, there's a float that turns the pumps off, and then there's a low level below that. So when the stop float goes bad, the low level still shuts the pumps off. So when we got that alarm, we tested the stop and found that was a bad float and replaced it. Glen Echo Shores Pump Station had a bunch of call outs. And originally there was a HOA switch. When we put it in the hand position, the knob fell off and the pump circuit runs right through that knob. So we figured that was our problem when we found it. So we had an electrician come out, replace it. And the next night we got an alarm out again on it. So we called the electricians back. They came out and it was a float that was shorting internally. So when that particular float would move, it would short out the system. And then we'd go there and run the pumps in hand, everything would clear. And it wouldn't happen again until that particular float was in the loop. So they found that and they replaced that float. We hauled 6 loads of sludge to Cranston for disposal. For chemicals, we ordered 4 totes of sodium hydroxide 25%. We got 1 skid of magnetite. We got 1 skid of soda ash. And soda ash is the chemical we replaced for lime. It's a little cleaner to work with and it's not going to leave like big sludge piles in all the tanks. Grinder pump calls, we only had 1 in the month of May. It was at 131 Sunset Drive. And there was just some grease around the floats. We cleaned it up and they were good to go. There was 75 dig safe requests that came in the month of May. And that concludes the MOR. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I guess I do, actually, I do have a question. I have a question about is that lime shed that we bought and that stuff. Are we, has anybody heard anything about that? We're gonna try to use that. Is that gonna be associated with the other stuff?
The Wright PS is supposed to be putting together some proposals to design upgrades. And at that point, we're going to try to integrate it with what they design.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions about the MOR? All right, thank you, Benny.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Let's see, a new business, Peter, sewer moratorium.
Yes, so every 2 years you have to renew the sewer moratorium if you choose. The intent of the moratorium is to prevent a large user that abuts a sewer line from making a connection and using the remaining capacity at the treatment plant. The moratorium gives you, the commission, discretion to allow larger connections on a case-by-case request. If you wish to extend the moratorium for another 2 years, you should make the motion as written in the memo.
I'll make a motion as written.
And I will second that.
Any discussion on that? Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Senior abatements.
Yes, we have received the applications for the FY23 senior abatements. Attached is the list for your approval. Sue has reviewed all the applicants and they all meet the requirements necessary to receive the abatement.
We want to make a motion to accept the abatements.
I'll make a motion to accept the abatements as written.
Second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Moving on, surplus.
Yes, we have some surplus equipment that we'd like to get rid of and make some space. The first is the old generator from the Mugget Hill Road pump station that is sitting in the treatment plant, taking up quite a bit of space. It's been there for more than the 5 years that I've been here. There's been no discussion on what to do with it. I know in the past, they talked about trying to put it into a trailer and make it a portable generator. However, we already have 2 portable generators, one of which is loaned out to the fire department. If you would approve this, I'd probably want to get the generator company, who'll move it outside, get them to come and take a look at it and try and see if it'll fire up and see if it produces power. So if when we do put it out to, for sale, we can say it does work. And we also have approximately 15 of the 250-gallon totes that are being stored at the salt shed. So if you would declare those surplus equipment, we can start the process to go ahead and dispose of them.
I'll make a motion to declare that as surplus equipment to be auctioned
And
off.
I will second that motion.
In discussion? Go roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Moving on, camera system for the treatment plant, Peter.
Yes, we currently have 1 security camera at the treatment plant that's fairly old, that's on the building and points at the main gate. It doesn't provide a clear picture when needed. Attached is a proposal from Ken Hahn from Micronet, who's the IT provider, and provides coverage for cameras in all the other buildings in town. So it's what they're proposing is to do 4 cameras with wide field of views at all corners. So we'll pretty much have 360-degree coverage around the building, which will allow us to see what's going on and if need be, go back and review what might have happened.
I think that's a great idea, Peter, and I'm surprised we don't already have this, to be honest with you. Anybody else?
Do we have the capabilities of this to be able to tie it in to have like meetings at the sewer treatment plant?
No, these are external cameras only.
Oh, external only, not
Yes.
interior. Okay.
No.
I have a question regarding this. I guess, has there ever been a situation that called for the need of these cameras and we didn't have them, so we weren't able to like see something that happened?
There was one that we know of where a couple of kids crawled under the gate and got into the Headworks building and discharged the fire extinguisher and kind of threw it, just left it down at the end of the road by Route 20. And that's kind of that was almost 2 years ago now. When we reviewed the footage from the camera, you couldn't really identify or get a clear enough picture to kind of identify who it was.
Thank you.
And I think this also will provide a sense of safety for the employees as well. Just, if something were to happen to somebody, we'd be able to look at the cameras and identify what happened.
Awesome.
Does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the security cameras from Micronet.
Second.
Any more discussion? Peter, go ahead with a roll call vote.
Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Excellent.
All right, water line construction update.
Yes, so the new water line that was installed by ExxonMobil, the school loop, we are having some small issues with it. I've attached a copy from McClure Engineering that discusses our concerns and asked ExxonMobil to perform additional review of the design and hydraulic model to determine what can be done to address our concerns. Kleinfelder has responded that they have received the letter and forwarded it to ExxonMobil. So right now, we're currently just waiting for their response.
All right. Other business? Next meeting,
Tentatively will be August 9th, if nobody has any objection. Be 4 weeks from tonight.
perfect.
That works for me.
Sounds good.
Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
And I'll second it.
Go ahead, roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Redlack,
Aye.
Mr. Coleman,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Have a
All
great
right,
night, everybody.
excellent.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Model of efficiency. Thank you. everyone.
Yes.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Good night.
Bye, too.